Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those beyond and in between the binary, this podcast episode is scheduled for 1 hour and is episode 3 of Glow the Distance, a gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling podcast. Coming to the mixer first, hailing from Oakland, California, the born-again heel who's canvassing your cul-de-sac, the PTA mom who will batter your bake sale, Jetta Ray! And her co-host, also hailing from Oakland, California, the lavender lipstick in your bandolier, the minister of misandry, Lauren Parker!
Well, let me tell you something, Lauren. I'm glad to be here.
I am so glad to be here as well, Jetta.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. And we have a guest today.
We do. 6-time League of Ladies arm wrestling champion and Empress of the Southern Kingdoms, Marian Gonzalez. Marian!
Hi! I'm coming to you live from the San Fernando Valley, where it is 500 degrees.
Really?
Yep.
In Earth degrees?
There may be hyperbole involved.
Only slight.
Slight.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
It's a delight.
Since it sounds like the world is melting around you.
This is the classic wrestling trope where you get two people who are feuding and you put them on a tag team.
Yeah.
And despite their outward anger towards each other, they still persevere against the well-oiled tag team until the very end when it all comes apart. You see, Mary and I are both former champions of League of Lady Arm Wrestlers, but in different regions. Expect to see some what we would call cheap heat around North versus Southern California.
Were you also with Ladies Arm Wrestling?
Yeah.
How did I not know this?
Well, it doesn't sound like it's a very good feud, Jetta, if only one of you knows about it.
Look, this is very on brand for me to not know that I'm feuding or flirting with someone.
That is as real as Madrid.
Well, all right. Welcome to Glow the Distance, episode 3. We're recapping the Wrath of Kuntar of the Glow series on Netflix, and we'd like to shout out our producer, Paul Sauer, for editing us into coherency.
Thank you, Paul.
And Zelda. Knocked over, was it a mug?
It was something that was holding all of my business cards, but it was glass and it is shattered on the floor, and I am barefoot, so this is good. And she does not even seem remotely fazed. She didn't even flinch.
That's a Saw scenario.
Yeah, it totally is.
You have to do a podcast, on a bed of broken glass with your feet up.
Oh, that's my literal nightmare. I will post a photo of my cat on our Facebook page and our Instagram page, just because she's so cute but so crazy, and so I have to do that. But then if you want to follow my cat on Instagram, she's at Daily Zelda, and she can knock over anything in your home for free.
So we're covering episode 3, Wrath of Kuntar. As is tradition, we are going to begin this episode with the wrestling fan news caveat. Okay, so let's all talk real quick about some wrestling news.
All right.
And go. Matilda the Hun has launched a GoFundMe for her medical care. Matilda the Hun, who's the original bad guy, the original heel of the original series of Glow, used to work as Queen Kong, wrestled the bear because the state athletic commission wouldn't let her wrestle men. Needs a lot of help right now with the healthcare stuff that comes with being a wrestler. And we're going to post a link to that on the page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that lady fucking rules. She put me in a headlock once.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. She said, hey, sweetheart, come here. Gonna put you in the knocker locker. Okay.
Do you have any wrestling news?
Yeah. I was this morning watching this documentary on Netflix called Lucha Mexico. And I don't know if maybe it's because I'd watched it back to back, watched it yesterday and then I watched this one today, but it feels very much like if Paris is Burning was about Mexican wrestling. I mean, just everyone is sweaty and lit weird and just strangely angry about everything, and it's the sweatiest documentary I've seen in some time.
Wow, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of sweaty and angry, we now go into the progressive caveats, where we all get a moment to just up front say what's problematic about the episode so we don't dwell on it. That begins now. We'll let Lauren go first.
So bash. my struggle with this episode is like, not only do they have to make the gay character a bigger piece of shit than the piece of shit director, but he's also supposed to be the biggest fan of wrestling and is still somehow a bigger piece of shit than horrible like Mark Maron. Kate Nash's character is also baffling because she's sort of like diminished into just this body. Some of it is that I've seen episodes in the future, but like contextually, that's really, really terrible.
I think this episode kind of speaks some truth to power relating to the ways in which wrestling exploits racism and sexism,
Totally.
and xenophobia. But it doesn't do it in a way that vindicates or really gives agency back to the people that it exploits.
No, definitely with how it ended.
Yeah, I'm a Latina woman. I got no shortage of like, really cool guys coming up to me at like some party or other and going, "Oh, hey, did I ever tell you about the time that I spent like a month in Rosarito living in a palapa just drinking beer and being the local gringo?" Or maybe some dude telling me about how, "Oh yeah, I drank some like ancient Indian people tea and then I kissed a pyramid." And so yeah, fucking bash, guys.
God, he is like he is like food that repeats.
Yeah.
He's so hard to like feel any sympathy for, and
Yeah.
it's just he's a piece of shit producer. I think I all producers are kind of shit.
So, thank you all for sharing. We now go into the recap. Well, every episode, it seems that we're introducing some new like advancement or modification. So last show's recap was 10 pages typed out.
Yeah.
This one's only 4.
Jetta didn't like this one.
Well, no, because there's a reason why it's called the... so, in keeping with Glow, I decided to write this recap while lit.
Oh, shit.
So this recap is sponsored by Crispin Pacific Pear Hard Cider and a Slim Jim that I bought at the liquor store. It just seemed thematically appropriate.
To what put you over the minimum to buy with your card? All right.
So we begin in what I presume is Sam Sylvia's apartment. We get a close-up of, like, of course he fucking wears turquoise rings.
Because he's just as bad as Bash.
So he's writing some script, and he gets a visit from his ex-wife. And you find out they've been arguing that he's been holding their dog longer than, I guess, the divorce mandates.
Yeah, if they're already divorced and they're supposed to like divvy up the assets basically immediately upon divorce, he's been hanging on to this animal for probably 6 months.
Yeah. I'm pretty, I wrote in all caps here, I'm pretty hecked up that we learned the dog's name before we learn any of the casts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We don't know. I've been calling her Godiva every episode, is they never say her name.
That's true.
But we learn the fucking dog's name that we see in like on the cusp of a quiver of one scene.
It's a presumptive binge move because they're like, oh, clearly you're going to watch all of it all at once. But actually the way that this show has been paced out, it isn't the sort of show you can kind of binge all at once, really.
I mean... Yeah, that's what I like about this. It doesn't feel as much as like the other Netflix shows where it's like, fuck, I gotta watch all of this now.
This is and it's also kind of front loaded and paced in a way that can be very. There's a lot that's happened so far that's like kind of takes a minute to process, especially with that whole miscarriage episode. So I could see how somebody would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do a lap."
So he pretends the dog died to get her to leave, but the dog then barks, and she takes the dog and tells him that he belongs in an asylum and that he has no balls. And Sam is like, there's one ball you can't castrate, and that's the mind, which he has to write into his script that he's working on.
This man.
Honestly, that is the like this episode could have just as easily been about how like Sam Sylvia just like becomes like the guy that made Cerberus the Aardvark. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. Where he just like writes these like hate screeds about how women are all blank voids who suck male energy out of them.
Yes.
Like this could have been cut from that abandoned show and just put in this random episode. Writers do that all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
How it's like how in one of the Superman movies, like the guy who made Wild Wild West, like he wanted Superman to fight a giant robot spider.
Oh yeah.
And then
they
just made Wild Wild West so that
and
Will
they're like,
Smith
oh,
had
if
to
we
do
make
it.
Kenneth Branagh do it, it'll save it, and it doesn't.
No. So now Sam comes to the gym, and he's been usurped as the man of the house by Bash, Sebastian Howard, who is played by Chris Lowell, who I wrote has a pretty passing resemblance to David McLean, the original creator of Glow.
Yeah.
He also was Piz on Veronica Mars. Shout out to all my marshmallows.
What is that? What does that mean?
Marshmallows?
Yeah.
It's the community of fans who are fans of Veronica Mars.
Mars Schmel. Oh, God.
Okay. In the pilot episode, in which she, is very nice to another human being, which is rather strange for her, because considering that she is Nancy Drew, as done properly. The comment is made, underneath all that hostility and young feminine angst, there's somebody in there. You're a marshmallow. You just want to bake me something. And the final line of the pilot is, you know what they say about Veronica Mars? She's a marshmallow. So shout out to my marshmallows. Anyway.
And okay,
it's like the one thing about Glow that I knew, okay? Like, just give me that. Just give me, one thing. I know no things. Let me have a thing.
I had a thing, and you took it out of my hands.
It's my thing. It is my stamp. And it makes noise.
So, okay. So Badge is giving this, just to make sure that we set the scene, or the time period, Bash is telling some story about how he met Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan signed something for him. He made a joke about how he was a Republican. And Ruth is alone in the ring trying to judo chop her way into being liked, I guess. And then so when Sam is like, here's the producer, be nice to him, he signs the checks. Bash gives the quote that has launched 1,000 Facebook cover photos, of all of my wrestling fans on Facebook, where he's like, and wrestling is an art, despite my mother's opinion, which is wrong. Did you, how many of your friends adopted that as their
None,
cover photo, Marian?
None. I'm like the person in my friend circle who likes wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so what was your initial impression of Bash as a character?
Oh God, he's going to be this guy, isn't he? He's going to be exactly the guy who we're shown he is. He's going to be tedious and going, well guys, but the checks, I'm writing them. Please listen to me about this pretty dream I had, and it's going to be kind of awful. It's weird when I say stuff like about wrestling like that. It feels fantastic for me to say it. When I hear someone else go it, I kind of want to shy away and go, he's not with me, which is the emotion I had when Bash said wrestling is an art despite no one's opinion.
That's actually kind of how I feel about Ruth, to be totally honest. The reality of it is that I have been Ruth, which is why it hurts so hard. So,
oh shit, I am Ruth.
Yeah,
so.
I know, right? Anyway, it hurts so hard.
Yeah.
What about you, Jetta? When Bash came into view in his Don Johnson ice cream suit, what was your overall impression?
Honestly, to be honest, at first I was actually kind of relieved, because in a way this is kind of true to life.
Yeah.
David McLean was this baby faced little
twerp.
A twerp who left Indianapolis to come out to California because all of his male peers were like, ladies wrestling is a novelty, it's stupid. And he was like, I'll show you, and came to California and was like, I'll collect the best. I'll collect all the
wrestling. See,
yeah, I'll find all the best racist stereotypes and I'll put them all on TV. So I mean, honestly, for a moment, I was like, oh yeah, here's a guy who's not a wrestler, but is a really big wrestling fan who wants something, for these women. And you find out over the course of this episode how it is not that. It is not about them. It is not for them in any way.
Oh.
Bash kind of starts early on lamenting the lack of actual wrestling. He's like, well, what about power bombs or DDTs, when he's told that they're just still working on back bumps. And then that's where we get our kind of first hint that he's an asshole. When he asks Cherry if she has wrestling experience, or asks Sam if Cherry has wrestling experience, while she's in the room and not facing her.
So this is actually something that I ran into a lot with Bash, is that he does have a point, but he executes it so shittily. Because it's like, he does have a point. Like, they had a real wrestling coach in Salty, and then he fired Salty and then just hired one of his actresses. Like, that's, and like, does she have any wrestling experience is a legitimate question. But the way he goes about asking that is so fucking rude and degrading. And Cherry calls him on it. And he does, there's a lot of repeat offenses with that, where I'm like, you have a point, but I hate you.
So Sam reveals that he has scripts. And we're faked out to believe that maybe we'll get a snippet of the tacky promos that make Glow great. But we don't! Instead, we get... And I'd like each of you to kind of sum up what happens. Like, what define the show concept that Mark Marian is forcing these women to play out.
Women are bitches, and that I kind of want to see them, like, roll around in scantily clad outfits that are vaguely space-oriented.
Yeah, he said he pulled the paper out of his typewriter and he said, yeah, finally gonna get something really sassy about these women's lip. I mean, lib. That funny-ass punchline that was a big hit in the 80s. But yeah...
Wait, is the lip service?
No, like, being lippy.
Oh.
Yeah, that was like...
Take my wife, please!
Yeah. It was all that line was all over, like, newspaper comics, stand-ups would say that. It's like...
Oh, it's Dilbert. Scott Adams is in here somewhere. If you're listening, you fuck, I hate you. Yeah, he is like a stereotype of a misogynist.
Yeah.
What about you, Jetta? Do you have a one-sentence recap of this weird-ass situation we're then, forced to sit through?
I was just going to say that it's probably how some people view the Bible.
Okay, go on.
I mean, it's how a bunch of, it's a bunch of, like, empowered women in building their own societies and, negotiating for resources. It's how like Kirk Cameron views Revelations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yes, but the crocoduck is nowhere to be found, which is a mistake. For those of you that don't know what that is, I will post about it on our Facebook hostily.
So through all of this, these women are basically acting out this like awkward stage play of like Mad Max, and there's no wrestling, and you can watch Bash like slowly succumb to this like childlike disappointment that many of us as wrestling fans do all the time whenever we are introduced to something that is ostensibly a wrestling product but absolutely isn't. And this was the hardest part of the episode for me, having to empathize with like a rich white dude.
I know, you tweeted me about it in a very big panic. I remember this. Well, and so you get to see like the actors, like, even Ruth's like, oh, I get to read like, stage directions and things like that. And she just like you just see her wilt as like this long, draggy ass, weird, B-movie, Xanadu-esque thing happens. And it's like, no one would sit through this. Luckily, we didn't have to because they fast-forwarded through most of it. It was like a 3-minute scene, but still, it was like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to see so very little of her performing the stage directions because she didn't read them. She just like, her character is the stage direction.
Yeah, and then she gets to read the part of Kuntar, which everybody mispronounces, which is even better.
Yeah, how do we all feel about the word cunt? Like real quick, because they like that is like punctuation on this show.
Which, like, I guess when I think about like Orange is the New Black and things like that, that shouldn't surprise me. But it did take me, it took me aback in like the pilot. Now I'm desensitized and I know what's coming as far as like the racism and the misogyny moving forward. So I'm like, Kuntar, who cares? But it is like it's ubiquitous actually, which is, I think they say cunt more than they say fuck.
I don't know. How to say? I feel like trying to build all this like humor around the word cunt, it is sort of to me kind of emblematic of this like lean in feminism kind of bullshit where it's like all the lead, like 90% of the leads are all skinny white women, and it's the show is basically a vehicle for Sam. For Mark Marian to like nag women half his age, but we get to say cunt and we get to reclaim it, and it's it's girls and power, maybe.
I feel so powerful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like the word a lot, but I'm very cautious about where I say it because it's going to have reactions. And also, yeah, like you said, it's people trying to reclaim a thing that isn't theirs, and you go, okay, cool. I'm empowered, kinda. This was a weird episode.
Yeah, this one's a weird... I mean, it's definitely a turning point. We had to see the personas, which I like, but this one is the one that kind of like... This is like the make or break episode. Like, you're either in it or you're out forever, and it seems like a weird note to end on.
Yeah. So Bash doesn't like the show, and he's trying to let Sam down easy. So he just invites everyone to a party at his Malibu mansion, like you do. Who among us, right? Like,
yeah, I always invite people back to my glass Malibu mansion to hang out in.
Yeah, I've been to Malibu. It looks like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bash and Debbie ride off in Chopper, and then Ruth tries to get out of going to the party because the last time she went to a party with Debbie, she got drunk and slept with her husband.
As if somehow we forgot. Like, they're really hammering this home, like, as if we forgot that she, like, slipped and fell into Debbie's husband. But, like, she just sort of sounds like a whiner now. Like, it's hard because one time I slept with Debbie's husband.
Yeah, you know what's funny is, like, I didn't think she was that bad of a person for sleeping with, like, Debbie's husband because I guess I'm just fundamentally broken that way.
Sure.
But there's this constant hand-wringing over it. And the way in which she kind of commands space by doing so is starting to wear on my robot self. So then a bunch of people climb into Melrose's limousine, except for Carmen, who says that she'll carpool with Ruth because she knows no one likes her.
Carmen's the best, really. I hope this does what a lot of the other Genji Cohen shows do, which is in the second season you find out less about the main character and then you find out how great everyone in the background is. Because I just want to see more of Carmen being wonderful and good and happy and joyful and wrestling and falling.
She has like a genuinely beautiful face. Like, it's so like expressive and sweet and joyful, and it's like, I don't want to look at any more of these fucking bitches, and I just want to look at you. You make me happy.
Yeah, the Carmen show is so
like,
good.
Don't cut to Mark Maron. I don't need to see him. I know he hates everything.
So Sam ends up having to drive Cherry, who is angry about not getting a part in his script,
which is legit. Like,
yeah. And then they're joined by a 19-year-old girl who is Sam is initially not into letting come to the party, but then she turns out to be a big fan of his work. And she's like, this script really explores the limits of feminism and nuclear power. And there was this brief moment where I had this like pang. I had this like, I guess you would call it a flashback, but just this like phantom pain of like, oh shit, she's us. Like this is like, she has to be written off the show now. Like she has to be hit by an anvil or find God, because like this is like that kind of behavior is what ruined our last podcast.
Yeah, totally true. 100%. The earnestness, you have in here a 19-year-old who turns out to be a big fan of his work and reads a whole lot of unnecessary political shit into it. And I said, tag yourself, I'm unnecessary political shit.
And then when we get to the party, we see that Bash has a cool party butler robot with party drugs in it, which is very 80s. I mean, that's like so many 80s shows and movies featured like a party robot butler.
Yeah.
Like there was like Rocky, for instance.
True. Yeah, I guess I'm like, what next? A Teddy Ruxpin? But party girl Melrose didn't actually know how to open the party robot to get to the party drugs. But she says the couch is designed by Picasso, and she's just sort of compulsively lying. Like,
yeah, I mean, straight up, designed by Picasso. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
I want to get a Teddy Ruxpin and make it read the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, you should totally do that.
Hi, I'm Teddy Ruxpin. The study of history is hitherto a study of class war. And then we get a scene of everyone. We get a scene of a group of people like Sheila and Arthi hanging out with Bash on the lawn while he talks about all the things that his mother's company makes. And Arthi tries to eat Lucky Charms with a toothpick, which I've also put down is another sauce scenario. That is, you're locked in a basement. You have to eat this whole bowl of Golden Grams and Crunch Berries with a toothpick, or the bomb explodes in your spleen. Like, you're dead. You're done. You're fucking.
Yeah, I went right to that and I thought I need to try that. I have toothpicks, but all I've got are like cornflakes in this dumb house.
Oh, well, you have to fix that. You can go to Gelson's.
Yeah, fucking shout out to Bash going about, go got the plastic box at Gelson's. Shout out to bougie ass Southern California supermarket Gelson's, which kind of was a big deal around 85 or 83 or 89 or whenever this show takes place.
Wow. What are they known for?
At the end of the wine section, there were these vats that you could stick your white wine into, and you push a button, and the cold water in there would just spin around in this little cyclone, whirlpool, I guess, and you'd pull it out, and your wine was chilled. They were known for, or are, I guess, known for being the most expensive supermarket you can go to.
Even Whole Foods isn't trifling this shit.
Oh yeah, no, this place is like if Whole Foods were not crunchy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's very much the place that all of the 80s yuppies shop at. And the one that's down the street from me, actually, is the one that got swallowed up by the earth in 2012, in the movie 2012.
So instead of it being like organic vegan wine, it is lard wine that they like harvested from like the livers of Midwesterners. And then but then they chill it.
A duck puked up this wine. Yeah.
So we meet Florian, Bash's butler. He has Flock of Seagulls hair, so that's 80s bingo, maybe? They're obviously playing a faux gay relationship between them. And Ruth turns to Carmen and says, I know this sounds needy, but please never leave me alone at this party. And Carmen just nods along like sure, while eating a gummy shark. And then she goes to the bathroom, and then she learns there's a caterpillar machine in there. What is a caterpillar machine, Jetta?
Oh, it's an arcade. It's an arcade game.
Oh, is that okay?
It's kind of like Centipede, Millipede.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like the arcade version of Snake.
Oh, okay. I don't play video games either. It's another one of the many things I don't do. When Sam finally gets to the party, he finds out Bash and Ruth are by themselves, and he springs into action to intervene. He is very weirdly protective.
Of the girl that he said every episode that he doesn't like.
He's been the abuser for 2 episodes now, so he gets to be the corrupted protector of his little flock, and sort of like he's like, nuh-uh, I licked it. It's mine. But it turns out Bash and Ruth are just innocently gazing at a neon sign that says neon.
Yeah, they're appreciating art.
Yeah. And from this we're supposed to see that Bash is vapid, but the guy who wrote Cuntar is so deep. The trap is sprung. Bash tells Sam that what he's producing isn't what he hired him to do. I'm trying to elevate the form.
And that is so bitchin'. But can you maybe also not do that?
He does have a very good point. And Bash says he wanted something different the way Miss Pac-Man is different from regular Pac-Man. Almost the exact same thing with a bow in her hair.
Which isn't true. Miss Pac-Man is a totally different game.
The mazes are different. The ghosts all move differently than in Pac-Man. The animations have a different story.
Yeah, that's why Ms. Pac-Man is like one of the best-selling like arcades of all time in North America. That's why here in Oakland, like every fucking bar has a Ms. Pac-Man
and a Kiss Pinball. Although the Addams Family one is still my favorite.
Yeah, you'd say that.
I would say that. He gives Iron Sheik as an example of simplified wrestling storytelling. He wears a headscarf and hates America. Sam brushes him off as a 25-year-old child who thinks he knows everything and just storms off because everyone is just very mature and everybody is sort of right in this scenario, but I'm displeased about it. By the pool, Melrose and Godiva are digging around in the robot to find more drugs. They consumed a lot of drugs in that time, though. And Godiva apparently kissed it, and Bash shows up with Bob Mackie gowns, and he directs the ladies to a costume closet on the 2nd floor where he encourages them to find inspiration for their wrestling personas.
Yeah, just party where you just get rage and put on costume sounds amazing.
Yeah, like he's winning me over. Like,
see, I love costume. I love the idea. I love the idea of a party where you have to go and put on a costume more than I like the idea of a costume party because then that's an activity.
Yeah, that's true.
That is something I can do. Like, and keep busy.
Yeah,
like, regardless if I find someone at the party I want to talk to.
That's true. You also are like to be helpful, and you can be helpful if everybody has not gotten into their costumes yet. There's buttons and everything, so it's like that makes sense.
Yeah, you can make pals by zipping somebody up in that Bob Mackie.
Yep, which is hideous. Ugh. It's just like 100% like beaded. And here we have our first gimmick where Bash tells Carmen that she was meant to be liked by kids, and he gives her a hat that he got while hiking Machu Picchu. So originally she's supposed to be this heel, right? But he's like, no, you're lovable and great. And so then he gives her that hat that I've never seen before. And I hope to never see since.
So I have a different visceral reaction to Machu Picchu than I guess most people do. I had a professor in college who's was just like this very flighty, just kind of like, I lived in Machu Picchu for a while, and that's why I'm so detached from the world and all of its material stuff. And he tried to use like his Buddhism and his like ideas of.
Is this a white guy?
No, but he used to use but like he tried to get me to detransition and like not transition in college, like because he thought that like transitioning was selfish, and so we all at school developed this kind of like Matt Foley character of where we would do an impression of him of just like, you know, living in a shack on Machu Picchu.
It sounds a little bit... Yeah, no, it's totally a van down by the river. Well, Melrose is unhappy with how she looks in the Bob Mackie gown, and Bash gives her a flogger. And we get this tender moment between them where Melrose goes, you see me.
She tears up, too.
She does.
It's like...
She sells this weird-ass part so much. Like, you kind of get the impression that this was a character that was much smaller, that, like... Jackie went and like, I don't forget her last name, I apologize, just like went and like kind of like rocked it in the audition, and they went, okay, let's buff her out some like weird other shit that we can add to her character, because it's pretty amazing. So Florian, playing up the gay friend stereotype, is left to babysit Debbie at the party as she drunkenly sobs about leaving her husband. She says this monologue, and this is credit to Betty Gilpin, who plays Debbie, because it's not a very good line, but she sells it to me, and I actually kind of really understood it and appreciate it. I feel like I'm losing my mind every 20 minutes. 20 minutes is about as long as I can possibly pretend that everything's okay. I have no one to talk to except you. And that's about the point when Florian gives her a bucket to puke in, and then he's like, cool, not auditioning any fag hags right now. Thanks. It just is like done. She also very sweetly is like, when you cheat on your wife, don't tell her anything. And he just looks like he is about to use the bucket to vomit it.
And all the while, of all the weird things, they're sitting under a portrait of Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, there's so much about this scene where I'm like, who made these choices?
Yeah, I don't recognize the woman in the other portrait, the one with a tarantula on her face. But that was Dolph Lundgren from the era when he was going around escorting Grace Jones nightclubs.
Oh.
Just leather pants, no shirt, and a bandit mask.
Yeah. So Florian gives her the bucket to puke in and runs over, and Ruth kind of runs over to help Debbie into a cab. And there's this awkward moment as Ruth is telling the cab driver where Debbie lives, and Debbie quietly laments, like real drunk, that Ruth isn't her friend.
She just repeats it over and over. You're not my friend.
She's not my friend. You're not my friend. And then Debbie lurches forward and bangs her head against the window. It was really genuinely scary. Like, I was like, you're not my friend. And Jetta's note here is, we get it. Bash leads the costume ladies down to the rest of the party to introduce them in some sort of like weird pageant. He's really pageant momming it at this point. Yeah. And Sam is displeased. And Bash says, we're exploring new ideas. Like he has a PR man's way of like trying to go, we're not like limiting you. We're just improving upon this proposal you've made. And Sam says, we don't need new ideas. And Bash says, your ideas are too complicated. He doesn't even tell him bad, which would have been a totally fair review. But he just says, they're too complicated.
I can't tell you how many tote bags or shirts or tattoos of like, you know, Godiva as an astronaut with a gun that I have like almost bought for myself. Like pinup girl and an astronaut that is just straight shooting. Like that is if there was any doubt you were like the world's biggest lesbian. It's just it's a staple of I don't know.
It's a staple.
It's just that, I mean, you know, that's just like what lesbian pulp pinup.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's the Virginia Woolf lesbians and there's the pulp lesbians. And
yeah.
You're the latter. And explain.
Obviously, I couldn't even fucking quote, you know, Communist Manifesto 10 minutes ago.
Well, you were pretending to be Teddy Ruxpin. In explaining the simplicity of wrestling gimmicks, he refers to Melrose as a ripoff of Madonna and then leads everyone through an exercise. He points at Jenny.
I want real quick. I just want to say in these notes, I know their name's Jenny because I just at this point I had to fucking look it up, and I made a point to not look up anyone's names on IMDb and force the show to tell me who these people were, and I only added some of them. It's episode 3. We actually don't know. Who Awesome Kong's character's name is. We don't know who Jenny is. And
we literally know them by the racist stereotypes they end up delivering at the
yeah,
end.
and
I'm black woman. It really is that kind of reductive. He points to Jenny and says, "What do you notice?" And Godiva says, "Her eyes." And he goes, "Bingo, Oriental." You're a jock. You're an Arab. You're a big black girl. It's not a judgment. It's just what I and the rest of the world sees with our eyes. And in wrestling, that's the foundation upon which we need to build. And then internal screaming.
Yeah, I don't enjoy seeing a room of vulnerable people be deflated like this. It's actually, it's effective. I feel genuine empathy, but I feel this hyper empathy, this metagaming empathy, where not only do I feel bad for these characters, I feel bad for these women.
Yeah,
I feel bad for the characters. I feel bad for the actresses. Their characters don't get to be part of this conversation about what's going to be done about them, and with all of these awful things happening.
Arthi says she's Indian, not Arab, and she's actually kind of the one that seems the most conscious when this is all Jenny is not happy about it either.
Actually, on Arthi, something that I noticed when I watched the second episode again, when in the second episode where Sam Sylvia is fucking dressing Ruth down,
yeah.
And at one point he's her hair is brown, the color of shit. It actually pans to Ruthie. To Arthi, and has this moment where Arthi kind of looks at herself, and I didn't notice that until I watched it again. Yeah, and knowing that the show has this hyper awareness around this, and we're still being subjected to this.
Yeah,
it adds some real stakes. The show has to be so. Again, I haven't seen all the show yet, but the show has to be real fucking good.
It's digging a hole for sure. And, we'll see how you feel about the payoff. Jenny says that she's Cambodian. And Bash asserts that wrestling is not about backstory. It's about type. And Arthi's type is terrorist or genie or some other evil Arab.
Oh, the 80s.
I don't miss them. This whole nostalgia for the 80s, I'm good. I remain unchanged by E.T. I don't think you need to dress 80s to dress ugly. Just dress ugly. It's fine.
Yeah. I sincerely miss the design of the aesthetic design of the Memphis group, but man, no, we don't need this.
Bash offers Arthi a gun, and Sam tells her not to take the gun. There's an argument, but it's not a real gun. It's alas, these two men are not at risk of death. There's an argument between them on whether she should take it, causing her to say, "I don't know who's in charge," which is a legit fear. Ruth walks in and Bash tries to undermine Sam's vision by saying that there's no world where people will look at Ruth and see hideous or evil. White feminism.
Yeah.
100%. She's apple pie.
Okay, all right. So I have a question that I need to ask Marian. I can't ask you because you don't eat cheese.
I don't. Go ahead.
But Marian, how do you feel about cheese on apple pie?
That's a thing people do, huh?
Yep. Especially on green apple.
Yeah, no. Yeah, look, even back when I was eating dairy, no,
I didn't know.
Yeah, I first heard that as a punchline on Alf.
Oh.
That he demanded that his piece of apple pie have a slice of Kraft cheese on it, and I thought, oh, he's an alien. He's a space alien. Of course he wants.
Ew.
Where does Alf take place?
The U.S.
Yeah, because I thought he ate cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ate. I mean, you see him try and chase the cat around, but yeah, his apple pie needs to have a slice of Kraft on it, and I didn't run into that again until that's a thing people do.
Okay, yeah, all right, that's.
So you're in good company there, Jetta. You and Alf.
I wouldn't put a Kraft single on apple pie.
Yeah, Kraft. No, I thought it was cheddar.
Well, yeah, you want a really sharp piece of cheddar.
Do you?
Ooh, snap. Go on.
Okay, well, to be fair, I'm not an apple pie purist because, so in Arizona, it's really common to make apple pie with jalapenos in it.
Oh, that sounds way better than all other pie I've had.
Yeah, so, yeah, I I've always, like, to me, apple pie has always just been this, like, kind of like a hot dog. It's just this, like, malleable thing. Like, to me, I've never had this sort of canonicity around it. And a lot of people really hate the idea of putting cheese on apple pie. And it comes up a lot in, like, BuzzFeed, like, these are the worst people ever list. I mean, and those are...
They also think that putting pineapple on pizza is wrong, and they are wrong.
Yeah, they are wrong.
Pineapple on pizza is glorious.
It is. It's perfection. I don't know what the hell's wrong with all of you. But, Bash does have a point. She is as American as a cloying, mass-produced, flavorless crusted dessert one eats with relatives that one does not like. Well done. Excellent point, Bash. Sam says he didn't take this job to take orders from someone who makes fake phone calls at the Polo Lounge, which I did not understand, and which is incredibly upsetting to Bash, who retorts that no one would hire Sam. And there's some sort of, like, shouting match, and they start shoving each other, and the robot takes a drink to the face and sort of explodes.
And then starts speaking Spanish.
It starts speaking Spanish, and then it just sort of, like, melts down. And Sam says, take that out of your allowance, I'm done. And Bash does this whole thing where he's like, don't pick on Florian. Florian kicks ass, which is interesting because he doesn't mention Florian at all, really, but in passing. And he's very concerned that somebody is going to take Florian away from him.
Hey everyone, it's our intermission. So grab a drink, grab a snack, do some stretches, get limber. Marian, what concept of wrestling do you have to explain to Lauren today?
Well, I thought I'd break out one of the most simplest and also just vital to a lot of professional wrestling, and that's kayfabe. Kayfabe basically just means this is what we all agree is actually happening. If the giant man says he's an undead zombie wizard who was a dead cowboy, he is, and we all agree. And while he's in the ring, or he walks away from it, or he's in the gym, or he's at the locker room, we agree that the entire time that's who he is. That is what he is. And maybe he can have a feud with the leader of a swamp cult about who the devil likes better. Sure. The devil exists, and he has an opinions about which of these two wrestlers he likes better. Sure, maybe a man will have a wrestling match with actual God, God being represented by a spotlight. That's fine. This all happens. These are things that it's like a suspension of disbelief. A thing that we can all agree that is happening, that is true and is sincere. That of why these things are happening, of why these people with the broadest possible motions that they're selling in the back of this giant stadium are, of why they're here, about why everyone wants that belt, aside from just they would like it, aside from it just being, it's what keeps it from being just an athletic competition and turns it into entertainment. Beyond that.
Okay, so it kind of operates like canon?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, and so there's just the presumption of any sort of state, since there's not a lot of like opportunity to show because we don't have a full blown Kantar script.
Yeah.
Whatever the declaration is, that's a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to tell Lauren where the word came from?
That came from Carnival sideshows.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, again, this is I'm grabbing this off the top of my head because I was in the bathroom during the break.
Well, supposedly kayfabe means be fake in Pig Latin.
Oh, okay.
Marian, do you want to talk about just briefly about the political implications of kayfabe and relates to secrecy and how and where wrestling is right now in the 80s with kayfabe?
Yeah, I guess I'll compare it to where it is. Well, like you said, where it is right now. Back then, around when Glow was taking place, it was sacrosanct. Wrestlers and the promotions went out of their way to make sure that there was no way that you could tell the difference between them being on in the ring and in life. If you met one of them in person, if that somehow happened, they had to not break or just not do anything to show that maybe they were just someone having dinner with their wife. Whereas now it's pretty widely understood. Sure, that's fine. You're not really that person. you're at Disneyland with your kids. You're just some guy.
Oh, interesting. So personalities or like archetypes were heavily developed around people and how they presented so much to other people because they expected people to be walking around being their personas all the time.
Yeah, so an example of this is Iron Cheek, who's mentioned in the episode, was once stopped by a police officer in a car full of drugs with a baby face, with a guy he was feuding with at the time. And he got in more trouble for being out in public with a guy he was feuding with than for all the drugs.
Intrigue.
Like, and that's basically kind of what sabotaged his career, like ended his career, is like that PR disaster of being caught in public with someone that on television you are feuding with. They don't really have like a millionaire gimmick in Glow right now, like in this show, in the season. It doesn't look like, but like, you know, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, when he was in WWF, they would make sure that he sat first class of every airplane, that he got his own like special hotel rooms, that he traveled separately, and that they just gave him tons of walking around money to just go out in public and spend money to make it believable to people that he was just this like really rich.
That's the one I
wrestler.
want. That's the gig I want. Well, all right then. That's like a really complicated. So you're just sort of always on. That's complicated. Thank you both for educating me.
So real quick before we get back to the recap, Marian, what are your personal feelings about kayfabe? Like I guess this is kind of like, so there's a lot of questions about kayfabe right now in regards to shows like Chikara, which is aimed at children, and around like not spoiling kayfabe for kids. What are your feelings on that? Around like where and when do you feel is it appropriate to enforce kayfabe?
Couple blocks of venue, really. I don't feel great about the pressure to keep it up. It's got to be just untenable and just uncomfortable and just horrible as hell to expect that you can't leave the house and go pick up Cheerios because you need to not be seen being kind or polite or somehow. That's got to be strenuous in a way that I know that I can't understand, but I'm fine with it going away when the show's done for the night. Were you
following like the news cycle around like Braun Strowman and like stuff that happened around like his social media?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I jumped off of that pretty quick because I just didn't want to. I just didn't need to know. I felt horrible that a lot of people were making hay about the fact that, hey, we found this dude's Tinder account. Here he is. Here's Muscle Boy or whatever his name was.
Yeah, there's a wrestler, Braun Strowman, and people found his Tinder and just posted it everywhere. And there are some people who argued that he shouldn't have a Tinder because, you know, it would be a generosity to like good guy wrestlers for him not to be seen as like having his own life.
This is sort of like how everyone's expected everybody to be a role model all the time. Mm-hmm. And like, it's like, don't do anything that we don't like or, you know, we'll shame you. But then of course Milo Yiannopoulos will say something and I'm like, shame. So what
I find really interesting about kayfabe is that it is one of the rare instances where men are held to the same standard as women.
Oh, okay.
In that like sex workers and porn performers have to live out kayfabe. They have to pretend that every man they encounter is charming and fun and like, true. You know, they have to pretend that their sexual interests are whatever, you know, a man with money sexual interests are. And like wrestling is one of the rare cases in which men are like held to that same like standard of having to live it 24/7.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't expect Steve Carell to be Michael Scott when he's not on TV, but
God, I hope not.
Why do I need, I don't know, Bailey to be that kid every time when she's... I don't need her to... I love her so much, but I don't need Pamela Martinez to offer to give me a hug and a slap bracelet.
Thank you for that. All right, let's dive back in. So Ruth chases Sam out as he tries storming out, and she convinces him to try and make up with Bash and try to keep the show running because all she has right now.
I know.
Yeah, she was just so. I've seen a lot of people. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. Sure, great. I know a lot of actors. I'm the rare Los Angeles native that wants to do that, so I meet a lot of them, and it's just it hits really close to home because I've seen that emotion on their face too often. I mean, sure, she's got the privilege that if she really needs to, she can go home, but oh, holy shit, she is not going to. This is it. This is what she has, and she's going to do this. And you almost want her to go, okay, no, please, go home. She's not going to, and it's something I've seen in a lot of people, and she sells it very genuinely and really here. And again, there's a lot more where her being awkward is just viscerally upsetting in a way that I haven't seen with any other character before.
Yeah, I as somebody who escaped a home, and my response to kind of a lot of transplant bristling, from locals who are like grew up in Danville or whatever, try to be queer other places. It's really hard. And so it's like when you've escaped and you're trying to make kind of like what you think is your path work, like there's like this desperation that we just see stinking off of her in big stink lines. Like it's really there. And Sam has like stormed out of so many rooms in this episode. Like he is like thrown so many like tantrums. And she kind of reminds me, some of this is I've been listening to a lot of You Must Remember This, but she reminds me of kind of like those young ingenue actresses that just get like shit on by directors in order to get kind of the performance out of them that they want. And then they end up like broken and never like, never really like function ever again because like they were 17 and they were totally manipulated by these like big powerful artistic men. Now he is not necessarily that big or that powerful, but that makes him almost more insidious and cruel because he is something to fight for too. And their dynamic, while I understand kind of like that it's complicated and that they're probably very similar, and that's kind of what I asserted is that Sam used to be Ruth. It's hard to watch sometimes. It's just an extension further of like the things that she does that kind of like upset me because I'm like, no, don't do that. But she says, I'm a homewrecker. I wrecked someone's home.
Yeah, you did.
But I don't get to play any of these characters if there's no show. And you see Ruth kind of steering into her bad persona. Like now she's like, okay, I do have something to benefit from this. I have skin in the game. I'm not too good for this. Like, I think I really want to do this now.
And so then Sam just begrudgingly goes up and makes up with Bash at a fire by the beach. And it's just full of like two men like non-apologying each other. It's just, it's peak man feelings. Did you ever watch Peep Show?
No.
Okay, well, there's a band in Peep Show called Man Feelings. So there's this character, Super Hands, and he's just like always jumping from like band to band, and he has a band called Man Feelings because they're men and they have feelings. And that's just like, I thought about this the whole time. And so what's interesting about like these two men trying to sort of make up is at one point, Bash reveals that he's been under the impression that Sam's movies were meant as comedies.
This is an old like comedy tropes version of your movies are hilarious. They're not meant to be hilarious. Like that's like a very old like, but it works really well here because we saw his script earlier. So I too am confused.
So Sam agrees to make the show that Bash wants. I'll listen. I'll compromise, he says, in exchange for funding his film Mothers and Lovers, which is ostensibly about time travel and incest. Okay, so, and then the show kind of wraps up, and we get this montage of the gimmicks that we come to, that will form the backbone of this wrestling company.
Which we were all waiting for. We all waited a while for this.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like, this is like not a money shot, but like this is the kind of the reveal that we have been waiting for 3 episodes. Yeah. And it, oh boy, comes out swinging.
We were not impressed.
We start with Fortune Cookie. Jenny plays Fortune Cookie, an evil Asian like temptress warrior.
She acted the shit out of this part,
Yeah.
which made it hurt even more.
Yeah.
Because it's like she is so good at being like a part that is so like abominable, and it's like at least when you had kind of the other ones, they were like about it, but she is so earnest, and it just.
So something about this scene in particular, this montage that has been kind of occupying me as per the notes, is just kind of drawing the connections of where these come from. And for me, Fortune Cookie kind of comes from... so after Glow, David McLean had another show called Women of Wrestling.
Right. And
it also failed. But it didn't... It failed like in one season, whereas like Glow lasted 5.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that the closest the closest analog to Fortune Cookie is Asian Invasion, who were a tag team from Women of Wrestling. And then next we get Arthi as Beirut the Mad Bomber, which she also acts the shit out of. She has this like deep gravelly voice and is like, "I've come to destroy your American way of life." And she's clearly based on Palestina from the original series, and we watched some of those matches.
I like that she kind of holds on to her identity just a little bit, because Sam's like, yeah, she needs the gun, and she's like, oh, so predictable. Like, I like that she has like that line.
And the 19-year-old is Scab, who's an anti-capitalist punk, just like, I'll destroy your Gucci and bash your Beamer.
Yeah, she kind of like, she was very comfortable in that role.
Yeah. She's kind of, I think she's based on or a counterpart of Riot, who was a woman and a character with the same gimmick in Women of Wrestling. And then we get Melrose as herself, her own name.
Yeah.
Is a party girl, as a party girl dominatrix.
Yeah, that was...
I know that you want to say the line, so say the line.
Daddy's been a bad, bad boy. Come here, Daddy.
And she's clearly, to me, she's based on Hollywood and Vine, who
Okay.
are the same. Yeah, they were the same, like party girl fishnets, not dominatrices. They really didn't have that in the first go around of Glow.
It's so weird that she's like both sugar baby and dominatrix. Like they hit like a whole kink wheelhouse.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like in like ones that normally you don't get. Like, it's the whole like, sugar baby, daddy gives her everything she wants thing.
Yeah.
Like, and she beats him. Like, that's a very big. There's a very particular wormhole of kink where you find that, but you don't normally see that represented. And so it's weird that and he does inevitably tie all the dominatrix stuff back, but she really sold it for me.
It was so
I thought
good.
it was really funny.
And then Sheila is herself. She just like goes out and is like, "I'm Sheila."
Yeah, I think she
everyone's like-
might be based on dementia or Gremlina, maybe.
Yeah, that's believable to me. Carmen is Machu Picchu, who's meant to, it's Mount Fiji.
And she's really excited because she's like, I'm a good guy. And like, she's really excited about that. I think she's like, I think maybe it's just her kind of her wrestling, like connection, but she's very into being a good guy. That's great.
And Cherry is Junk Chain in a velvet one piece and gold chain.
She's supposed to be a rapper, which is, I didn't get Junk Chain.
Yeah.
It was a weird.
And like, honestly, there's so many racist, like, black stereotype gimmicks that she's, there's Ebony, Soul Patrol, Slam Dunk, like,
yeah.
she's kind of right now just this like catch-all of like David McLean's like crimes. And then the Hairdresser Sisters are the Beatdown Biddies, who are probably actually, I mean, I would say them. They're one of the most accurately adapted characters, like straight up, like they're a different name, but it's the same premise. It's a tag team of sisters who pretend to be like angry old ladies, and they're based on the Housewives in the original series.
They had like the best line. Some of it is that they were the ones that were least racist, so I was like, yay. But they were also like, I got moles older than you. I'm like a good 5 of cereal. I'll make you shit your pants. Like, I was like, all right, I'm into this.
Yeah, they were fantastic. I hope it sticks even closer to, the housewives in that they enter the ring, just covered in mud masks and wielding plungers.
And so Godiva is Britannica, the smartest woman in the world.
I think she's based on Zelda from Glow.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, what was it? I'm not
Zelda the Brain.
athletically inclined, but yes, my test is always on time. I don't weigh as much as my IQ, yet I know the appropriate thing to do. I'm Zelda.
Oh, right. All these characters have the raps.
Oh, God. There's also a welfare queen.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. Awesome Kong is doing some amazing acting in this, and I feel terrible because she shouldn't have to. She should just kick the crap out of these writers.
But so Britannica, what I love about Britannica is that like the Brainiac gimmick is so rarely done in wrestling.
Okay.
Because it's not, because she's obviously meant to be a good guy, and good guys aren't supposed to be smart. Like that's like a cornerstone of being a good guy is you have to be dumb.
Yeah.
You can't like anticipate when people are going to cheat.
Yeah, she's definitely not a mad scientist evildoer.
So Tammy's the welfare queen, and I think that even though it's like a completely different stereotype, like she's meant to fill in the role that Big Bad Mama had.
Yeah. Okay.
In the original one. And so I foresee that they're going to pit her and Carmen against each other, the way in which they did with Big Bad Mama and Mount Fiji.
I love Carmen so much. Sorry, we're back to Carmen. I do love her. They originally give the butch girl Liberty Bell, who gets it immediately stolen by Debbie, who asks for the part, and who can do the accent right. Like essentially, she's just much more visually and appealing as far as like husky voiced, broad butch. And then Butch Girl laments that those are her actual gold medals that that Debbie is wearing for Liberty Bell, and so Butch Girl is Vicky the Viking. And so she's in a like jumpsuit, like an American jumpsuit. They just put a Viking hat on her. She's like, "I'm Vicky the Viking," and Bash is like, "Yep, this is it." And then Ruth is the home wrecker because she's desperate, but they're not really buying it. And so the show ends with Sam asking Ruth, "Help us out, Ruth. Who do you think you are?" And Ruth staring off into the abyss as the show goes to credits. It was a really good way to end.
Yeah. There actually is a group in wrestling called the International Home Wrecking Crew, and it's like a stable of women wrestlers. And one of the founders is named Jetta. Is an English wrestler named Jetta. So yeah, that was that episode. How do we feel? Like, what are our thoughts and feelings on the episode? I only fucked up the recap once.
Yay! I'm so proud of you. Marian, how do you feel?
Well, watching this is still very much about your main protagonist, Ruth. It's still very uncomfortable watching her do anything, and I guess that's by design. But just the authentic awkwardness really just makes my skin crawl in a very sincere way. And it was 3 episodes in, and I go, okay, great. Well, we haven't seen them do the gimmicks yet. We haven't seen them do the personas that they're going to be in the ring yet. That's going to happen eventually. Oh, here it is. This is exciting. This is fantastic. Oh, wait. This was based on some pretty questionable stuff to begin with. Here it is. Presented pretty as accurately as it was. Wow.
Yeah, this one they really doubled down on when it came to accuracy. Which I think in some ways I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's great because it did nail that. It did nail that, these things are not good, but also here are those things that are not good.
Yeah. And, Ruth is like, she's like an unfunny Todd Margaret.
Wow.
It's painful to watch, but you don't even get to laugh. You just have to cry. Like, it's so stressful. I liked the backstory and the commitment to kind of owning the petty bullshit narratives that Glow really did participate in the 1980s. Like, that's just and it's the world was and is a crapshoot. And there's a fall from grace about it, but it was really tough to watch. Ruth is sad sacking all over the place, and she's like kind of worse now than she is when she's overly earnest Ruth. Like, it was really tough to watch that whole, like, I'm going to do Audrey Hepburn accepting an award as her talent. But it's like kind of stranger when she's just like begging. She's like, has to be Kantar. Like, it just, I know that the last line of which she's like, who do you think you are? And like, it's not supposed to be brutally hazing, but like in some ways that's the most brutal thing he's ever asked her.
It's really interesting how it's like such a coincidence that the main character of the show doesn't get a stereotype part.
Yeah.
But it's also because, like, that's, like, because they perceive her as having so little of a personality that she can't have a stereotype. And, like...
She's bland.
Yeah, and that's, like, it could be... It's almost really cutting, like, self-critique.
Yeah.
Like, on the nature of these kinds of TV shows.
For sure.
I don't know if it's that self-aware yet.
Yeah, we'll see.
I feel like they included Bash just so there'd be a guy who's, like, more of a piece of shit than Sam.
Yeah.
And kind of help build Sam up as this, like, to set him up for this, like, redemption arc.
Which, like, it's men in the 80s. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard
So,
to
like,
redeem that.
not only does he get most of the good lines, but they've also given him a fall guy. Like, Glow is this, like, welfare state for this one fucking fictional man.
Yeah, I know.
I also think that the pacing of the Ruth and Debbie relationship is going a little fast.
Yeah, I mean...
think that, like, that moment of, like, you know, someone working up the courage to help the friend who hates them into a cab while their friend is like, you're not my friend, I hate you. I think that comes a few episodes in.
Well, no, because Ruth's a beggar. Like, I can totally... She's like, no. If I do enough right things, this will make it better. I'll be, like, absolved. And, you know, it's kind of like when somebody fucks up and then immediately they start, like, you know, overcompensating because they're, like, trying to do it better and better and better to prove that they're still of value.
Just tell me the thing to do to fix it. Just tell me to do the thing to fix it.
Exactly. And so she has to prove her value as, like, so now Debbie is the star of the show she wants to be the star of.
Yeah.
Like, she has to really prove her worth in so many ways. And so she's kind of, like, on super, like, dramatic cleanup crew, and Debbie is, like, just Debbie Downer. She's just falling apart.
I will say that I really appreciate that this episode was able to articulate a lot of the problems that wrestling fans have with wrestling and, like, wrestling's internal politics in a way that, like, makes sense to that would make sense to non-fans. I think that was, like, really important and really powerful because, I mean, there's a lot of ways in which, like, when women or people of color or queer people speak up about, like, what's wrong with, like, wrestling politics, they're just told, like, oh, it's just wrestling, it doesn't mean anything. And this episode kind of lays out the, like, human stakes of those kinds of gimmicks and those thought processes, which I think is really important. So I want to give the show credit for that. Most Marian moment.
All of it.
Getting angry at an ex-wife while being defensive about a pet feels like the most Mark Maron thing ever.
All right. Yeah, that's legit. Jetta, what's yours?
Like asking someone to check if he still has, like, Coke on his nose at a party.
Fraternizing with a 19-year-old who's obsessed with his work. Yeah, I went there. Right in the jugular.
Well, so did he.
Yeah, no, I know. Ba-doom.
So what did you learn this week?
So I learned that wrestling, like, kind of what I suspected, actually, that wrestling, at least for a long time, less so now, it sounds like, had an incredible amount of ownership over their talent. You had to uphold things that kind of you indicated with the Awesome Kong miscarriage story of that you had to uphold your character at all times and you never got to not be out of your character. And it's called K-pop. K-pop?
Yes, it is called K-pop.
It's called K-pop. And
I'm about to go to a K-ort for murdering you.
And it's sort of like a continuation of, like, what Disney kind of does, is how I would kind of put it, is, like, you know how, like, everybody has to be like Hannah Montana all the time, and then everybody goes through this big rebellion, except for you're doing it with older people, so they don't really get to rebel, and there's more at stake. Like, their whole careers are on the line, and so you kind of get to see the power differential between, you know, class war.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's class war.
Well, I think that's all we need today. I think it's time to tag out.
All right.
So I can be found at JETTA_RAE on Twitter. You can find my food blog, fryhavoc.com, which I am updating as soon as we're done with this. And you can find us at glowthedistance.xyz. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter. at Glow the Distance. And
an Instagram account at Glow the Distance as well, where I will put a picture of my cat who trashed my freaking podcast setup. I can be found on Twitter at Lauren Inc. INK. I can also be found online at laureneparker.com. Marian, where can you be found?
You can find your girl at The Gonzalez on Twitter. That's Z at the end, not an S. You can see me do things on Instagram at Mrs. Martian. And that's the whole
Nice.
word spelled out, MISSUS, Martian. There's cats there. There's pictures of things I ate, pictures of my face, the usual thing.
And what are some projects that you're working on right now?
Well, currently I'm looking for projects to be in. I've just spent an entire year being either rehearsing or being in a show. Just a solid year. And it's kind of nice to take that break, but also just like, hey, who wants a piece of this is what I'm doing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Tweet her to get a piece of this.
Come get a slice of this. Come eat. No.
And put cheese on top.
Put cheese on me. Get a nice humble fog up on.
All right.
Thank you so much for being on our show today, Marianne.
It was a delight. Thank you.
So yeah, we're gonna go get ready for our show ending karaoke. But before you do, I just want you both to know that I'm so blessed to have gotten to share today in your presence and talking about a thing that I love with you, because we're all champions in the ring, all of us.
I think we all just glowed the distance.
I'm having a great time, and I will bask in the afterglow of it all.
There we go.
There we go.
Beautiful.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much, Marian.
Thank you.
Hey, glowworms, it's Jetta. We originally set out to do a bad karaoke of Scandal's The Warrior, which was in the first episode, but Lauren had a cold, so I decided that I would cover it on my ukulele in the spirit of bad karaoke, and now I have a cold. I apologize. So I apologize for having a cold. I apologize that it probably is a little under-practiced, but I do not apologize for how it sounds. And I encourage all of you to live your life with the same abandon. All right, sing along if you know the words. Okay, for real this time, for real. Run away. It's your heart that you betray, feeding on your hungry eyes. I bet you're not so civilized. But isn't love primitive? A wild gift that you wanna give. Break out of captivity and follow me, stereo jungle child. Love is the kill, your heart's still wild, shooting at the walls of heartache. Bang, bang, I am the warrior. Yes, I am the warrior, and hard to win if you survive. The warrior. You talk, scrolling down. Talk to me, your eyes touch me physically. Stay with me, we'll take the night, as passion takes another bite. But who's the hunter? Who's the game? I feel the beat, call your name. I hold you close in victory, and I don't want to tame your animal style. You won't be caged in the call of the wild. Shooting at the walls, heartache, bang, bang. I am the warrior. Yes, Yes, I am the warrior, and hard to win. If you survive, the warrior. Okay, then there's like a solo. Wow, 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 wow. Okay. Everyone sing along at this part. Shooting at the walls of heartache. Bang, bang. I am the warrior. Yes, I am the warrior. Hard to win. If you are hard to win. If you survive, the warrior.